Hi, everybody. My name is Chris Munoz-Colleen, and I'm Assistant Director of Admissions here at Clark. I want to start by saying congratulations again. It really honestly does bear repeating. We were thrilled to read your applications and honestly are excited now that we get to show you the Clark community. So in this session, we really want to introduce you to the resources supporting students of color, LGBTQ plus students, and those who are first in their family to go to college. Keep in mind that this session can really be a conversation between all of us, so feel free to ask questions in the Q&A. We have time reserved at the end for your questions, and you can actually start writing them in now. So as things are occurring to you throughout the session, feel free to add those in the Q&A. We will do our very best to get to those, but if we aren't able to in this session, we'll be glad to answer them over email. So, and if you run into any technical issues, you can let us know in the chat. But like I said, if you have questions along the way, feel free to enter those in really throughout the session in the Q&A. But with that, I'll turn it over to our panelists for introductions. So how about I'll start with the students and then turn it over to Amina after that. So Mia, Sobia, and Saul, could you please introduce yourselves?
Yeah, so hi everyone, my name is Mia. I'm a sophomore at Clark. I'm from the Bronx in New York City. I'm majoring in English and Community Youth and Education Studies as of tomorrow, actually. But some of my involvements at Clark are part of the Black Student Union, Sisters in Stride, which is a women of color affinity space I'll talk more about. I'm a peer support worker through the Center for Counseling and Personal Growth at Clark. I also work at admissions, and one fun thing that I do is that I have a radio show with our university's radio show club.
I'll go next. Hi, my name is Sobia. I'm a senior at Clark studying psychology and management. I'm from East Hartford, Connecticut, so only about an hour away, which is pretty close. I do a lot of work around Clark, and that's kind of my jam. I'm a resident advisor in Bullock, which is one of our first year dorms. I work in residential life. I work at admissions. I'm also a peer support worker with MIA, which is a really exciting program that, allows us to help our peers in a non-clinical way. I'm also in a couple of different honor societies as well. So I definitely know a lot about Clark and its student employment and a lot of social events that happen at Clark. Something I really like to do that's fun is I'm in a ceramics class. So I enjoy making things that I don't have to buy.
Hi everyone, my name is Saul. I use he, him, his pronouns. A little bit about me. I'm a junior here at Clark, majoring in biochemistry and molecular biology. Besides working in admissions, I also work as an RA in the same building as Sobia, right down the hall. The best hall, matter of fact. Sorry. And I also work as an office assistant, same place where Sobia works, upstairs in residential life and housing, along with being a research assistant in the bioscience building that we have here on campus. So if you have any questions about that, feel free to ask me. Other things besides like working wise, some clubs that I'm a part of is Latin American Student Organization. I helped found one of the new clubs here on campus called Future Latinx in STEM. And I'm also part of the Salsa and Sandita Club, where we perform music from salsa to bachata, all that fun stuff as well. Some fun fact that for me that I like to do is I like learning about plants and collecting them. You can kind of see them right here on the back of my window, but yeah, it's a little bit about me.
I'll jump in, and Chris, you can go to the next slide. I think has like a bio for me there. But just to introduce myself, my name is Amina Gomez. I use she, her, hers pronouns, and I'm the administrative coordinator for Multicultural and First Generation Student Support, or MFGSS. We are also in the process of possibly changing that name, so it may even be a new name by the time you all join us here on campus. But I just want to reiterate what Chris said and just welcome you and thank you and congratulate you all for getting into Clark. We're really excited to hopefully in the near future see all of your faces in this webinar form. We can't see you, but we can feel your presence. So we're really excited to have you here. So the Office of Multicultural and First Generation Student Support is really, it's all there in the title. That's why the name is so long. We're here to support our multicultural students. We're here to support our first gen students. Actually, our name is super long, but it's not all in the title because we also have some support for LGBTQ plus students that just started to develop this year. We are in the process of hiring a specialist specifically for LGBTQ plus students. So by the time you all get here, that person will be in the role. So really some exciting things coming down the line in our office. I report directly to Peyton Wu, who's the director of our office, who is doing some more projects to help develop this office, which is why they could not be here for this particular event. But a lot of exciting things are coming down the line for MFGSS. So we're excited to welcome you and see you here, and you'll see all the new things that are coming for the office. So I think we can jump to the next slide. Yes, so what we'll be going over here is just what we do in MFGSS. And what we really do is that we're here to help, and we're here to help you specifically as students coming to Clark, not just in your first year, but through your whole experience here at Clark, whether it's 4 years, whether you're doing the 5th year, whether you stick around for however long it is you need to stick around. Our office is here to provide support for students who are often marginalized on predominantly white campuses. So I'll be going through the resources we have on campus, the communities that we help build, and the leadership opportunities we provide. And I'll be tapping on some of our student panelists to help support information about what it is that we do and like what the student experience is with that. We can jump to the next slide. So a big thing that we do through our office are pre-orientation programs. The first one is the ACE Summer Institute, which is a longer program. It runs 3 weeks at the beginning of August. This is a program that's open to first gen students and BIPOC students. And this is really our academic focused program. So you take courses, you get 0.5 credit, I believe, for the courses that you take. There's a writing course and a math course. And this is to really help you prepare for like what college courses are like. If you're coming from a high school that maybe you don't have AP or you do, and you just like, I just want to keep taking courses and kind of feel like what the Clark academic atmosphere is like. You get a chance to work directly with actual Clark professors in these courses. There's some leadership opportunities and development workshops that we have during the summer. And then we also do like fun excursions too. Last year we went to go see a baseball game. We usually do an outing to like a park or to the beach to make sure that you get outside. And we always have community service project that we do with the local farm near campus, which I think is just like a really great opportunity to see the community, get outside, get a little dirty, have some fun, play around with vegetables if that's like something that you're interested in, like Saul, who's interested in plants. And both of these programs are free. They're absolutely free to you. They're open to any student that applies are considered for the programs as long as you are within the identities for these programs, and they promote your success. The next program is Connections at Clark, which is a little bit shorter than the ACE Summer Institute. In some ways it's less intense, in some ways it's more intense because it's shorter. So there's a lot of workshops that you do to really build your leadership development, start to build some community and get to know some folks before you get to campus. It's a really great opportunity to just have a network when you start on campus, because starting college can be really scary and can be really awkward and nervous. So we kind of get that out the way a little earlier so that by the time you are starting classes and coming to campus, you have a little bit more experience and you have a network and a circle of folks that you can connect with. And this is an opportunity I'm going to take to stop talking and let the students weigh in on their experience with these programs.
I'll go first. I'm going to be talking a little bit about ACE. So I'm a part of the 2018 cohort, which is really exciting because that was how many years ago? I don't even want to know, since I'm a senior now. So I've been pretty involved with the program via some of the workshop requirements that you have to do. For me, ACE was a wonderful way to gain like 20 best friends before school started, and I felt really comfortable. And to this day, my best friend is an ACER. Like, you know, she's like the auntie to my future children. I really love her. Shout out Rebecca, you know where you are. So for me, this gave me a new family at Clark that I didn't really think that I would have, or that, you know, I would even figure out how to find. And, you know, something that also really sticks out to this program for me is like success it builds you up to succeed at Clark. I've gotten a lot of confidence and courage to be a leader at Clark because of this program. And I also felt way more prepared to actually take college classes because of some of that academic focus. A lot of my friends and I constantly talk about how if we didn't do ACE, we probably would have dropped out. So like this program really is like a saving grace to a lot of students, and really pushed us to be the best people that we could be. And now I'm coming to the end of my senior year. I have my ACE graduation coming up, and I'm going to be moving in with some ACERs. So this program means a lot to me and means a lot to the Clark campus.
I can talk about connections. So I did connections in the summer of 2020. So it was virtual. However, I still loved the program, and I feel like I benefited a lot because of the community and leadership focus of connections. It was a really great way just for me to like see who the other people of color were going to be on campus. And I benefited a lot connecting with my mentors, especially Jackie, who is a current senior here. And she played the mentor, not played a role, but her being my mentor was really great for me because she encouraged me and checked in with me. And she really became more of a friend towards the end of my freshman year as I got to know her. I remember we connected over zodiac signs. We're both Geminis, and we like freaked out about that over like a Zoom call in the summer. And it made me more excited to come to Clark and just like meet people because of the leadership focus. I remember checking in with Jackie and Isaiah and like them asking me what leadership roles I was thinking of pursuing. And I talked about how I really wanted to join the Black Student Union towards the end of my freshman year. And that I did. I got an e-board position, which was a really big deal because there weren't any other freshmen on e-board at the time. Also through connections, I found out about CIS, and having that women of color affinity space was another big part of my first year. But without doing connections and meeting the people that I met through the program, I wouldn't have found out about any of the like affinity spaces on campus or knew about Dana Commons. And yeah, connections was a really huge part of my first year at Clark.
I'm going to be talking a little bit about both. I was a part of ACE the year after Sobia, so 2019. Just a little bit about that. The reason why I loved ACE so much is because it allowed me to meet and so many different people, like kind of with what Mia was saying, like just like allowing me like to meet like not only people from ACE as well, but to also mingle with people from connections. Like to this day, like the people in my friend group are coming from both ACE and connections. And they're also like people of color, people who have been through like similar experiences as you. And to me, that's just really amazing. Like, and it's not even just like the students who are part of these programs, but the mentors as well, and who they can connect you with other people as well. Like I remember during ACE, Sobia, I don't know if you remember this, but the first time I met Sobia was actually in Bullock because we were staying here, and Sobia was visiting my mentor at the time. And I got to meet Sobia, and she wasn't my RA directly, but she was in the the building next to me. And to this day, like I was really grateful to have met Sobia because I remember asking her for advice when I was applying to be an RA, and I got it. And now I'm helping other people try to become RAs and like peer mentors and all that type of stuff. So that I think that's just the really like the beauty behind like these two programs, because it allows you to connect and meet so many other individuals like to really push you and go forward in life as well.
Yes, thank you all for sharing that. Yeah, I love that you already started making connections, which is what we wanted to do. And those programs do intentionally overlap so that we can combine ACE and connections towards the end, like as you're going into the semester. And a lot of the programming that we do in those last couple of days that connections join on, we do them together so that those groups can overlap. And something that I didn't mention, I think pre-orientation doesn't even really capture what it is, because we do have support for you throughout not just the entire year, but throughout your all 4 years that you're in this program. So like as folks were mentioning, like you have a mentor that, especially in your first year, meets with you regularly, making sure that you have the support you need, pushing you to leadership opportunities that you may be interested in. And then you're also required to stay in touch with our office if you are a part of these programs, to meet with the director for that one-on-one advising that we'll talk about a little bit later, and encourage to just keep in touch with us and participate in our programs and our workshops. So it really is more than just a pre-orientation program, because it is an engagement program that follows you through your whole time at Clark. And you all should be receiving postcards about that soon. They're coming down the line in the mail. We'll also be sending emails. The website registration is not up quite yet, but it will be up soon. So if you do go to our website, it might not be up just yet, but be on the lookout for our emails, for the postcards. I think we even do phone calls. Like, we're very aggressive about making sure that you know about these programs. So there's no excuse of like, oh, I haven't heard about it. Like, you'll hear about it. We will be on it. So very exciting opportunities with our orientation, pre-orientation engagement programs. I think we're ready for the next slide if there's no more comments. Yeah. So talking about student support and community that we build through MFGSS. So our office hosts socials every semester, a little lackluster last semester, of course, because of us being on Zoom, but we did have some virtual socials. We try to keep engaged even with the Zoom presence. We usually have a welcome social, like right when you get to campus, and then we have end of the semester socials, or end of the year social that we have, just to get people together. We're like constantly ordering food to our office to make sure that students are well fed with the delicious like restaurants that are very close to campus that deliver. We have a lot of like diverse restaurants around campus that have great food. So we try to make sure we provide that for students, because the CAF is great, which I'm sure the students can speak to, but you know, it's cafeteria food. And then spaces that we have that our office supports. So there's the McCann Resource Room, which is a study space on campus. It's like an open space. That picture in the corner is actually, we're in the McCann Resource Room, even though you can only see a tiny bit of it. That's us at our first generation student celebration. And the McCann Research Room also has a lending library that often gets used. So if you need a textbook that you don't have, or if you're just like, there's like a lot of books about like identity, or even just like books that you might need. Because it's a donation library, if it's like a real like textbook, you know how professors always update the textbook, so you might not find the exact one that you need, but students are donating to that library all the time. So it's really helpful if you're looking for books that you don't want to buy for that year. The McCann Research Room also hosts a lot of like the identity spaces that you see at the bottom of the page there. I think most of the spaces that I see on this page have their e-board meetings or their general interest meetings in the McCann Resource Room. So it is a space where a lot of identity-based student organizations like to gather. A lot of those students did go through our program, so they feel a connection to that space because we spend a lot of time in McCann during our programs. There's also the Mosaic Suite, which is a smaller suite of offices adjacent to our main office located in Dana Commons. That space we host, but it's really a student-owned space. That space belongs to the students. I think it technically belongs to the student council. So groups will have meetings in there. Students will go in there to study. I've caught many students like napping in there on the big like sofa couch beanbag thing that we have in that space. That's really just a space for students to have for their own use. There's 3 offices in there that are kind of that lock off to their own. So if you needed a space to study and maybe like you're not feeling the library, you just need like a more private space, those offices are used for that typically. So we do have like a lot of space, like physical space on campus for students, particularly multicultural and first-gen students, to feel like they can gather adjacent to our office. And those spaces are overseen by student proctors, who are student workers, which we'll talk a little bit more about in that leadership slide. We also host Affinity Space for students based on identities. So Sisters in Stride, which Mia mentioned earlier, is our affinity space for women-identified folks of color. Focus is a space for men-identified folks of color. There's a queer and trans students of color space, also called QTSOC. And then there are other affinity spaces that we host not as frequently as these spaces. So those 3 spaces that I listed for BIPOC students meet bi-weekly. CIS is on Thursdays, Focus is on Mondays, and QTSOC is on Wednesdays. They are very much like a tight-knit, a little bit more organized group. They are student run. groups with guidance from our office, but we really want to emphasize the ownership that students have in that space to really make it their own. And then the other affinity spaces are the Latinx Affinity Space that works closely with the LASO, the student organization that Saul mentioned earlier, and the First Gen Affinity Space, which is the group that puts on the First Gen student celebration that we have every year in November. And we collaborate often with student organizations. As much as they need our space, we make sure that they have the space. If they need any other kind of support, or if they need like funding, that they are additional funding support. Typically, the student orgs have more funding than our office does. Clark is really good about supporting their student organizations, but whatever way that we can support, we are actually working with Prism tomorrow night for the Trans Day of Visibility to put on an event to bring students in. There's going to be like buttons and stickers and just celebrating identity and love in that space. That's also going to be hosted with QCell, which is our Queer Students for Education and Liberation. I just had Chris like break down that acronym for me because there are a lot of acronyms on campus. So we're collaborating with QTSOC as well to put together that space for the Trans Day of Visibility. But we often have like celebrations in our space. We had a big Black History Month celebration in February. We did a big Women's History Month celebration this month, March, a few weeks ago. So we like to have celebrations. We like to have opportunities to bring food and joy and music into the space. And I will again take a break and let students speak a little bit more to some of these spaces on campus and some of the opportunities for community that we offer. Who wants to get us started with that? I think Mia, yeah.
Yeah, I can go first. So as I mentioned before, I'm part of the Black Student Union. And so we use Dana pretty much every week for our e-board meetings and our general interest member meetings, like one we have coming up this coming Sunday. But like an example of how we use the space for an event, we had Black Arts Explosion in February. And so at that event, students were able to showcase their artwork on the second floor of Dana Commons in the Fireside Lounge. I don't know the names of the actual place. It's just upstairs to me. But yeah, Black students were showcasing their artwork and performing, and there was food and music, and it was really fun. And just like the way that the space got transformed was super nice. We had like these cute little lights that spelled out like BAE. It was really, really cute. But like I also use this space frequently for CIS. Wow, which Amina mentioned that it meets bi-weekly on Thursdays. And so I loved CIS. I did it virtually my first year and I was pretty much loyal to going to every meeting. And I met three people who became friends through virtually, and I got to meet them for the first time in person like last semester, which was really weird, but it was like we knew each other already, we recognized each other, and CIS was honestly a really big part of me really coming to feel comfortable at Clark, because I always knew I could go to that space and just like be with women of color and like we can relate to one another and talk about our experiences, but also just like have a good time when in almost every other space we are the minority. And now like two of my friends work in Dana Commons and with other offices, so I'm always popping in to like visit them while they're working. And my friends and I have talked about using the study spaces more just because they're nicer and quieter. And so that's our goal for like our next two or 3 years here at Clark. But those are some of the ways that I use the space. I'm gonna let others talk about how they use it.
So yeah, kind of with what Amina said. So I'm part of LASO, so Latin American Student Organization. We meet in there weekly, especially during the first semester when that's when we have one of our biggest events called Noche Latina. And like that's where we host it, not in Dana Commons, but in a different space. It's basically like what does being Latinx mean to you? We host like different performances like on the salsa team. We usually do like 3 different choreographies for that, and they're not like some rinky-dink little dances. No, they're like really good dances. But this is stuff like that. Also, like LASO does like some practices as well because they also put on a show. We do different poems, different people come and sing, all the different fun stuff for this specific event. Other things that I'm also using the resource room for is literally just going in there to just do my homework. I use the McCann resource room a lot. Personally, I go into one of the offices if I ever just like want to like separate myself from like society and all that type of stuff. Just like go in there, do my work, get efficient and all that type of stuff. But yeah, it's just like those are some of the reasons I use data comments in general.
Yeah, and I'll just cap this off by saying I'm not in any of the affinity-based groups or like clubs and whatnot, but I still feel really welcome to a lot of the events. And I think what's great surrounding this is obviously some of the groups, like more of the affinity spaces, you might need a little bit more commitment to because that is a safe space and you're trusting your information and feeling safe in that space. So you're going to kind of need to go. But some of the other events are really open and there's not a lot of commitment, which I really like because I feel comfortable enough to go, but not bad enough where I'm like, oh no, I'm not joining. But I think they do host programs for the campus by students, which is really sweet. And it's nice to see people in clubs that I know that are running them and doing an incredible job putting on these programs because they see a need for fun activities for students of color or, queer and transgender students. So that's really fantastic. And I really like that these programs are open to just campus in general.
And I'll just add in about PRISM, which was mentioned a little earlier. That's a student club that serves those in the LGBTQ plus community at Clark. There are some, I would say, pretty staple PRISM events that happen, year after year. One would be Pride Prom, and another one is Coming Out Stories. And Amina mentioned the Trans Day of Visibility happening tomorrow and next week. PRISM is actually collaborating with the Ballroom Dance Club for a Pride-themed social dance. And I looked up the description of the event. It says, learn some dramatic dance moves to use at Pride Prom. So, we got to prep for Pride Prom. So, so they're really preparing you for that. During our Roomba lesson and have fun on the open dance floor. Free pizza, dessert, and goodies will be available and everyone is welcome. So that's just an example. Actually, both the Trans Day of Visibility and the Ballroom, this Pride themed dance, both of those are collaborations, which I would say is really common at Clark, that clubs come together to put on events that bring like audiences from all corners of campus. So everything you see on the slide, just know that these clubs and groups also work together really often too.
Yeah, thank you for that. I want to point attention to something that Sylvia said too, about like the affinity spaces and that like, yeah, so many of the student orgs are great opportunities that are open to everyone on campus that are great learning and teaching opportunities. But like we know as like people in the BIPOC community that sometimes we need our own spaces. And that's really the intention of the affinity spaces, to allow a space where it's just, especially for the folks who identify within that group. And we do ask for a commitment just because of like the vulnerability of those spaces, particularly with QTSOC, the queer and trans students of color space, because even some folks in that space may not be out to the community yet, may not be out to their families yet, and they have the safety of that space to be able to work through some of their identities and like figure out, exactly where they are with that in a space that's safe, that they don't have to feel vulnerable in. So I just wanted to mention, like, that's why if it seems like redundant, like why do we have affinity spaces in these other groups? It's because that's more of a tighter knit space. I think I'm ready for the next slide, unless there was something that someone else wanted to add in. Awesome. So leadership development. So I mentioned earlier that we have one-on-one advising. That's typically with the director. And then we are hiring for assistant directors, and assistant directors also do some one-on-one advising. In my role, I typically don't do a lot of one-on-one advising, but I have been doing more of it lately. Students sometimes just like, I think like a few weeks ago, someone made an appointment with me and I was like, with me? And we had like a really nice like one-on-one advising session there. This is something that is required for folks who participate in our programs like ACE, but it's not exclusive for those who participate in our programs. Anyone can set up an appointment with Peyton or with me. Like I said, I was like surprised to get an appointment. But anyone can set up an appointment for one-on-one advising. It can be academic advising. You do have an academic advisor who's for that, but like sometimes you just need a little extra guidance, or it's just helpful to get another perspective. Or it can just be advising about, you know, what club should I join, or like what should I do, or I'm having just like a tough time adjusting to things. And it's really just a sounding board. It's not therapy. We do have CPG for like more of that, even though I've like heard that some sessions with Peyton can get a little deep and feel like therapy sometimes. But that's not what we're typically licensed to do. I can see Sophia like hiding. So this is just an extra layer of support for you to just get some one-on-one, like a sounding board. We do have training opportunities, particularly for folks who sign up to be mentors. But again, we are expanding to have like more trainings just for students who are interested in leadership opportunities. A lot of our workshops do work in that capacity as trainings. Leadership positions that we have through our office are mentors for the ACE and Connections program, which I keep reiterating, like those are the programs that really are like the lifeblood of our office. But being a mentor is open to anyone. Typically, we do give priority to people who participate in our programs, but we have hired outside of folks who haven't participated in our programs in the past. And sometimes they bring such a new perspective that it's good to have folks who didn't participate in our programs to have that diversity of like ideas and thought. And then with student employment, I mentioned really quickly earlier that the McCann Resource Room has proctors. So those proctors also serve as members of our student programming board. So you're not just sitting in the space proctoring, but you're also helping us develop programs to attract more students. You can be developing workshops. We typically have passion projects that our student workers do. So if it's something you're just really excited about that you want to put a program on for, like last semester, one of our students is involved with a group on campus called Clarkies on Wheels, or COW for short. And they wanted to do a collaboration to get like more women of color on skateboards. And I was like, sure, well, we can sign up for that. So they had a skate session, and then they watched like a film about Black women skaters afterwards. And that was like a really fun hybrid event that was unlike a lot of like the programming that we have put on in the past. So we really encourage our student workers to be creative and come up with those ideas. And y'all know like what students want to do because you are students. So you know, I can come up with programs, the Payne can come up with programs as much as we like, but like you all know what students will actually come to. So we do rely a lot on our programming board to give us ideas and come up with like fresh new ideas for us to attract students to our programming. And then there are a lot of leadership opportunities on campus that are through our office and also outside of our office that we help encourage for. So I want to let some of our student leaders who are on the panel speak to that.
I don't mind going first. But yeah, so it's like I'll touch a little bit on each one kind of. So like the one-on-one advising, I remember that kind of goes into like talking with the mentors and all that stuff, and as well talking to whoever's working in MFGSS. I remember my first year, yes, I did have my mentor, love them, Mads. But I also loved and really greatly appreciated the other mentors who were there at the time. And I remember telling Haley Haywood, who was the director at the time for my specific year and Sophia's year, I believe. I remember telling her like the mentors you chose like for my specific cohort, amazing. I recommend like, or not recommend, like I ask that you please like choose mentors who can bring the same things to the table, if not more. Just because like I remember like talking to everyone, and each one of them like was able to give me advice on like so many different levels on how to approach life, how to choose my specific major and all that stuff. So that's what I greatly appreciate it for. Something with what Amina said as well for like that one-on-one advising. I remember my meetings, I would meet, we're supposed to meet, I think like twice, I believe, for ACE throughout the semester. Am I right or wrong during our first year? Yeah, twice during your first year. I met weekly with Haley, just because I really connected with her, and we talked about like so many different things. From, I know we're not supposed to do this, we weren't. This wasn't like supposed to be, but like from like life counseling to like life advice, like to course selections to how I should be navigating my schedule, all that stuff. And to this day, like I still like I really greatly appreciate her for that, because she didn't have to do that. Like it takes a lot of mental capacity to do these types of things. So I really do greatly appreciate that for her. And like I remember she also wrote me a letter of recommendation as well for that, for internships that I got. But yeah, so these are just like some things to take into consideration too, like to really talk to whoever you're gonna be paired up with for that specific year if you do decide to do ACE and connections. But yeah, like even like for me, like being like a student leader here on campus, like as an RA, like one of my favorite events I've ever hosted was a sex education event. And just because like I understand like coming from a high school in Arizona, it's not really sex education, it really isn't a thing. And I didn't realize it was that big of a thing until I ran this event. So it was really good. Like had prizes, a slideshow, did a collaborative event with Choices, the sex education group here on campus as well. So it was really fun. But yeah, there's some things that people to take into consideration as well.
I'll go. As a senior now, I really have valued my time in one-on-one advising, whether it was with Haley or with Peyton, because it's definitely been some of that like I need assistance now kind of stuff. Definitely tears. Definitely like, oh my gosh, my life is falling apart, and I have a final and a project and a presentation and 10 hours of work, so for me, those advisings have really been nice to kind of center myself as a person and as a student, as well as, again, like what Saul said, trajectory, making decisions, because when you come to being a leader, sometimes you have to pick and choose what you need to do, and learning how to time manage, and also kind of get like should you really be picking up another 5 hours of work? Sobia has been really helpful for me as someone who's super busy, and me as like, yeah, me too. So, I really value that one-on-one advising. And I also think it's really nice to have an office that actually cares about me and actually cares what they say and what comes out of their mouths in one-on-one advising. Because every time I've gone, I've gone at least once a semester, I guess maybe once a year, whatever, doesn't matter. But like, I know that when I go there, I'm gonna get genuine emotions, kind advice, and like what I need to hear, which is really helpful. And I don't think a lot of offices around Clark, or other schools, period, can say that. This support is really unique to Clark and is really worthwhile because, at the end of the day, the people in this office actually care about your success. And I think that that's really special.
I don't have much to add, so I'll keep it short. But when I went to do my one-on-one advising with Peyton, I booked a 15-minute meeting that turned into an hour and a half meeting. So of just like me ranting about, I guess, like a bunch of things I had on my brain, and them just like being like, yeah, you're right. And it was like, I remember I left, and my friend who works for Seagrass, which is one of the offices in Dana Commons, like, she was like, wasn't your meeting supposed to be 15 minutes? I was like, yeah. She's like, what were you talking about for the past hour? And it's just like, whatever was on my mind, Peyton was there to listen to me about. And I got a lot of perspective about like being a student worker, being a student of color, and then just like the things that like, or I guess like the things I wanted to see change on campus for students of color, for queer and trans students. And it was just really nice to know that if I ever want to just like rant and rave for another hour and a half, I can just like book an appointment with Peyton. And like, yeah, and it's just like great to know that there's support. And also like when I go in for cis on Thursdays with Amina there and Maria, like I can always bring up a problem if I wanted to, and we can rant and rave and just like, or also I really appreciate hearing Amina's perspective being a student, like when she was a student at college, and just like being like, okay, this is a universal experience. It's not just like a being a college student now thing. And yeah, hopefully, one last thing, I really want to be a connections mentor. I haven't gotten the I haven't not been so busy so I can apply. And so my goal is that hopefully during my senior year, I can, give back and be a mentor, because I really want to. And I really appreciate what Jackie and Isaiah did for me during the summer going into my first year, and then throughout my entire first year. And even now, like, I like telling people that I know the student council president of Clark. They're like, yeah, I know her. I have her number. We're friends. But like, yeah, that just shows just like how there's just so much student support through this office, and it really means a lot.
Yeah, I don't mean to interject really quick, but also like Mia's point, I think really like captures what it's like to be a part of these connections and being tied to this office. You're not just getting support from the staff members, you're getting support from past family members of ACE Connections. And that is so satisfying because honestly, like to Saul's point a couple slides ago, I literally was the RA for every single ACE Connections kid in Saul's court. It was so bad because I knew all of them. And I was like, you better not act up to me, boy, trust me. And it was just, like it's such a family and it's so heartwarming and it just makes Clark that much more feel like home to have a family here. So Mia's point is really correct, and Sal's points too, like really driving home that like this office will feel like home and you will protect it and give back to it, and that's really special.
I love that. I love that so much. Yeah. And I think like even like with the mentors, like yes, you have the mentor that's assigned to you, but I've seen like so many students connect with other mentors or just with their peers through these programs and really like build connections, which is great when you build like those cross like class year connections, because now you have like a an older person that can like show you the ropes and things like that. And then Mia like talking about me and sis talking a little too much about like my college experience sometimes. I'm like, I don't need to know all that, but I love building that connection. I love that space so much because I feel like I can just get to know the students in a way that I can't always do behind the desk or behind like spreadsheets. And it's just a great opportunity. So I'm glad that the feeling is mutual. I can say that. I think we are good for the next slide on resources. Yes. So some of the support that comes with the resources from our office. So we mentioned advising. We have monthly newsletters that we put out just to give updates on like our workshops that we have coming out, even like job opportunities and internships that we hear from other offices. I've been like more recently collaborating with the Career Connections office and with the Study Abroad office so that we can get updates from their office when opportunities are coming up. And just to keep you up to date, and like pretty much if you are a student of color, if you go through our programs, we like automatically put you on the newsletter. You might have to opt out if it's something, if you're like I have enough emails, but it's good to be on our newsletter. Like really keeps you in the know about what's going on campus, specifically through opportunities through our office and even off campus with job opportunities like in the Worcester or Boston area or like really anywhere around. We have our monthly workshops, which I think I mentioned a few times, and it's been topics ranging from like we've done time management workshops. Just today we had a workshop on writing a personal statement for students interested in grad school or like jobs that might be interested in that. We've done workshops on budgeting. We collaborate with Study Abroad, collaborate with academic advising and career advising to make sure that we do like those offices do their own programming, but we really work with them to make sure that those programs are catered to our student populations, for students who may be first gen, for students of color who are like, oh, where do I look for jobs? Like, if I'm a Black student and I like, how do I like suss out companies that may not be like up to date, like on their diversity stuff. Like we try to do workshops like that are really specific for our student populations. We also offer scholarships for study abroad and internship opportunities to help supplement the cost of those opportunities. The McCann Research Room and Mosaic Room, we've mentioned a little bit. And then on social media, we put a lot of our opportunities on social media. I last year took over like our Instagram and Facebook account. I've been really trying to like breathe life into it. So I put our events on there. We do our wall of honor post on there where we, for like the different cultural months, will highlight people throughout history. I've been trying to find like specifically like Clark folks throughout history, like Clark grads and alumni who represent like Black history or women's history. Though they're just the recent ones that came to mind. And then that's a good spot just to know like what things are going on through our office. And we often repost from other offices and collaborate with other offices on campus. So it's good to follow us. I know our Instagram is on the last slide for like our contact information. And those are just like a few of the resources we have. Like I mentioned, we have a lending library. There's often like people drop off pamphlets in our office if you like need more information about other offices. We just like try to serve as a resource for students. So if you have questions about anything, even if you don't think it's like what our office does, I like to be helpful. So I'm like, well, we can Google this together. We can figure it out together. So that's a lot of the resources that we have on campus. And I know that folks can speak more to that. So Bia particularly has received some of our scholarship funding and can talk about like what that process was like.
Yeah, so I this semester I got an internship through a professor of mine at one of the like a mental health facility that he's the CEO and president of. I know, big moves. So that was really exciting. However, it was unpaid because, you know, the life of an intern. So it was really nice to have an opportunity to get funding, specifically from an office I love, and also specifically for students of color and first generation students. I think that that's like so important. And at times, like, yes, a lot of money goes unused, but sometimes it's a little daunting. So to know that it's from an office I know really well, I felt really like comfortable applying and, you know, that kind of stuff. The process was really great. You budget, you have to submit some sort of like, you know, that you're applying and acceptance letter and stuff like that. So pretty standard, you know, application process. And then I think what's also great, and again, like says a lot about this office, is that it goes with you getting money anywhere from like, you know, like however much you need up to like 2,500 or around 2,000, sorry. So that's really fantastic. And it's for underpaid or unpaid internships. Specifically, that's what I did, or funding for studying abroad. But you have to give back, which I think is really exciting. So you have to share pictures, write a paper, and be willing to talk on panels and stuff about what this scholarship did for you and like how it helped you do something that's really exciting. So for me, it gave me a way to not have to work more. So that was really exciting because I already work like 20 hours. And so, you know, I was appreciative of not having to work 10 more. So that was really great. And it definitely felt really good. So I'm really appreciative for it. And I can't wait to write my paper that's due 10 days from May 10th. I know that due date. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. I don't know if anyone else wanted to weigh in. I think this is kind of a collaboration of a lot of the stuff that we already talked about. With the scholarships, I think we typically cap it at 2,500 per student, like throughout your whole Clark career. So like if you ask for like $500 one year and then you want to do another opportunity, ask for $2,000, like we can do that. We're more generous with students who are very active on campus than in our office, but like we rarely ever turn students away. We may not get you the full amount of money that you asked for, but we very rarely will say we're not going to give you any money. So if it's something that you're interested in, and as long as you have a budget laid out, I would say definitely apply for our scholarships. And yes, we do ask you to give back by writing an essay or and sending pictures and participating in a panel. There was one student who asked if they could do a vlog, and I'm like, if you can produce that, like you can do that instead of like the one-page paper if you really want to. I would love to see that. So you can definitely get creative with how you tell us about your experience. All right, I think we are good for the next slide, which might just be our closing slide. Yes. So yes, if you have any questions, here's our contact information. That's mine, Amina, once again, and then also Peyton's is there as well if you have like more in-depth questions. Please follow us on social media. You can follow us right now. I know some of y'all are on your phones. If you have your phones right there, look us up, follow us right now. Just get your career started. But other than that, I think that's all that I have. If folks have questions, can drop it in the Q&A or message Chris, and I'm happy to answer or send it off to our student panelists.
Yes, thank you all. That was wonderful. And we have time maybe for just a question or two. And I do see one that was submitted basically about how to get involved. So the person asked, how did you get involved in the first place? So when you first came into Clark, how did you find these clubs at all? I think that's a great question because all three of you are pretty involved on campus, but how did you get from it's my first day on campus or like I know I'm going to Clark to getting involved in the organizations and clubs that you're now in?
Well, first, so I think a big part of it was like learning about a lot of different things through my ACE mentor and just like the other ACE cohort, because obviously you kind of like get to know them in the connections mentors. So they really guided me about what I wanted to do. And also I think what's really nice about these that you'll learn if you ever do them is that there is some like, oh, you're an ACE and connections student. Excellent. So that comes with a lot of like, you know, secret privilege. That's really sick. And, you know, you can't say that often. So like, you know, that comes with some secret privilege. That's like, oh, cool. Here's some leadership opportunities that you might be interested in. So it's a really well-known thing. And then from there, it's more of just like you're meeting new people, you're meeting a lot of just offices. I remember like literally my first week of sitting at Clark, I like sat next to our then president, and that was like insane. So you meet a lot of people through the programs, and that really helps you build connections about what's possible.
Same with me. I remember just talking to one of my mentors, Mateos, at the time, and I asked like, what's some cultural clubs like specifically for Latinx students I could join, and he just went on and on about like Lasso, in a good way. I think that might sound a little negative, but in a good way. Like I remember hearing like one of the E-word positions like after for ACE, one of the what's it call it one of the requirements that we do is like in 5 minutes give us a presentation on your 4-year plan here at Clark and just a little bit about you. And I remember going up and just like talking a whole bunch about myself and the plan that I have set for myself for my 4 years here. And after that, not like he was left impressed, and they told me it's like you need to run for e-board for last. So at this point, like I already talked to you so much about it, but he recommended me to one of the positions that I could apply for. I got it, and from there, like it was just like the rest is just history. Like the following year, events chair. This year was treasurer. But yeah, it's just a little bit about me, and then from there, like I just like started reaching out, going into different organizations. Like another piece of advice he gave me, like a big thing about college is the experience and what you take out of it. Like, yes, like you go to college for your degree and like to get a job afterwards. Like yes, but like take more things out of there. Like take some memories you can take with you. And I remember for me, I took that to the heart, and I said like, you know what? Back in high school, for me, I was in like concert band, marching band, choir, all these different types of things. And like I got to college, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna try a little bit of new stuff. I was in club volleyball, Model UN. I had no business being in Model UN. I don't know what I was doing in there. And you know what? I also auditioned for the hip hop team. I auditioned for the salsa team. And again, no business being there. I did not know a lick of dance like in my body. I did not know how. And to this day, I don't know how I got on the salsa team. And now I'm captain. So like literally life goes crazy, and you don't know what you can do with it at the end of the day. So my advice to everyone is just to try new things. Try new things. Like the worst thing can happen is a no. The worst thing that can happen is you not liking something. If that's the case, you are always welcome to leave at the end of the day and find something you like. Yeah.
Yeah, really the way I found out about things was just by talking to my mentor. I don't know if anyone can hear that in the background, but I'm pretty sure there's a fire drill, and I'm going to actively ignore it and write my answer in the chat.
Gonna say, I think if there's a fire, you can step out. I was just gonna say, to add to that, if you, for whatever reason, cannot do our programs, and you're coming to campus, you're like, how do I meet people? How do I get started? There is I think it's called a co-curricular extravaganza, or it's a first year. It's like a club fair that you should go to, definitely, and just sign up for anything that looks interesting to you. Signing up on those sheets is not a commitment to be in those groups. To just make sure that you get the emails for when the meetings are happening and that you know what's going on. There's also a website, Clark Engage, which the clubs have to use to put their stuff into the system. I don't think a lot of people like frequent that website, but it's a good place to start if you're trying to figure out what clubs and groups are on campus, because all of their events are in there. And just go to things. There's always food. There's always things that are around. So I would just recommend just putting yourself out there and then sticking to the ones that you're really passionate about. And I did see that there was a question in the chat from Faith. Chris, is okay if I jump into that next question? So for folks, if you can't see it, that there was a question about like if you're trans or non-binary, like how can you change your name and your pronouns, like for rosters and things like that. There is, I'm pretty sure, a way to do that. I know there are plenty of students who have changed their names and pronouns for class, and they don't inform your parents about that. I don't think it's necessarily a FERPA violation, but like we have no obligation to tell your parents about how you present yourself when you're at school. I know down the line when you're graduating, it may become something that you just might have to think about. I know a few students I've talked to are dealing with that now about like, oh, what name do I want them to say? Because now all my family is going to be here. But for the time that you're here, you can change your name. I personally do not know exactly how you do that. I don't know if there are students in the chat who do, but I would highly recommend reaching out to Peyton, Wu, our director. Not only is Peyton our director, but Peyton themselves identifies as trans non-binary, and they're very passionate about making sure that those resources are available for students. So if you do have more questions about that, I would recommend going to their email. But I think Phobia has a hand up because I have an answer for that. Did you have an answer?
Yeah, I was gonna say I think like reaching out to residential life and housing and the dean of students, and I think Peyton's like definitely like do that as a first step, because they can give you like a very concrete like to do. But I think residential life and housing could also give you a really great hand. And there's a lot of residential life and housing staff are LGBTQA plus members. So that's really exciting, and they're very aware of issues that involve living and existing and all that good stuff. So they can also really help you out in terms of like figuring out how you want to what name changes will look like, especially on documents and class rosters and stuff. Dean of students too.
Yeah, just to go a little bit off of that, just because I do believe this is like a serious question. Like literally what Sobia said, talk to residential life and housing. I know for us RAs, like something that I've done this year and in the past year as well. I know some of my other coworkers have done this. Like we send like a a Google form for residents to fill out. We put name and the preferred name, pronouns, all that type of stuff, just so that we're aware. Like when we put on like name tags, door tags, like if we're gonna be giving out goodies, all these types of things. I know another one of my coworkers, she's actually my best friend. She was telling me a similar situation that the person wanted to use a different name, but when it comes to when the parents are around, like to use their the name that the parents are given. For the question you just said in the group chat, and parents will see the name tags when you move in. For your RA, I think you can work on them one-on-one with that situation. I think that would be best. Just because when residents do move in, we put up door tags like for all the residents. But I do believe like the best thing for you to do is reaching out to your RA for that specific situation, just because they're going to be working with you a lot, and trust me, the people who get hired will know what to do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, super quickly. Yeah, most surveys that the RAs fill out have like, is there anything else you want to know? And I've had a couple students say, hey, I'm not out to my family. Can you please use this name for the time being? And that's like something that's very talked about at Clark, because we have a couple of students who are, even as seniors, still not out to their parents. So Clark is very aware. A lot of Clark students are very aware that, okay, we need to use this name then and this name then. So that's something you can totally talk about.
Yes, and just on a final note, a key of this whole session was about advising, and I think just know that Clark is a network of people who are all in touch, and it's a community. So as long as you reach out to some mentor, some advisor, someone in the community, you'll get guided in the right direction. So I think that has come through in the session as well as a whole. But just keep in touch along the way, and I just noticed the time, so it's 8 o'clock. So to all of you who are still here, thank you for staying with us. I also want to say thank you to our panelists for joining us. And just to reiterate, we were truly impressed with you, all of you who are tuning in, and selfishly, we would love to see you at Clark. But of course, we really want to help you find the best place for you and make the right choice for you. So just keep us in mind as resources. However you want to ask us questions or reach us, just know we're happy to talk with you. And if you're coming to Destination Clark on April 10th or April 16th, please say hello when you're on campus. It would be really lovely to meet in person and get to welcome you to Clark on our campus. So with that, I will end the session and wish you all a great evening. And thank you again for joining us. All right, take care, everybody.
Just one last thing. If anyone, I put my email in the chat. If anyone has any questions, comments, any concerns like that, please feel free to email me. Like, this is my job. I like this. I like doing these types of things. I love helping people. So even if it's with your application for ACE or connections or how to navigate Clark, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm just a click away. But yeah, thank you again, everyone.
yeah, please do feel free. All of our emails are in the chat, so you're always welcome to write to us. And have a great evening. Thank you all for joining us.